Cindy Manatic. I'm going to do my best to hurry up and get out of the way because I always say my speaker's prayer, and I'm going to say I'm Cindy Manatic, and I'm going to say thank you for letting me share, and I really need my God to fill in the blank. But I do need to say thank you to my God, to my sponsor, and to Narcotics Anonymous for giving me another day clean and alive. And thanks to the convention committee for trusting me with the responsibility to carry a Narcotics Anonymous message. You know, earlier this week, the enormity of that responsibility hit me. And I don't represent Narcotics Anonymous. I don't represent my area, my home group, or anything else. I'm up here to share my experience, strength, and hope. And if you get something out of it, then my God and your God got together. And if you didn't, you can get me after the meeting. Piss me off. You might help me grow. I was always taught that anytime I'm asked to share that, I talk about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. And hopefully what it's like now is a whole lot more of my story than what it was like. My clean date is 3/4/94. I don't say that for the applause. I say that to give you hope. Because if I can do it, you can do it. And you're about to hear the rest of that. My home group is sitting at the bottom. We meet 7:30 on Thursday nights. Canaan Memorial across the street from the Kroger on the west side in Charleston. Come see us. We're a literature study. And yeah, I correct people in meetings. Right? Because our literature tells us that alcohol is a drug and then some people want to separate it. Right? I suffer from a disease which drugs is merely a symptom. My disease lives between my two ears and it makes the most outrageous sort of nonsense make sense. It'll tell me I can do one. The other day it told me I could do 2 donuts. I took one bite and wanted to go get some more. When I tell you this disease shows up in my life without the use of drugs in so many ways that I never dreamed possible. And I recognize it today, that it is the disease of addiction that I am powerless over. And my life can get unmanageable real quick. I grew up, they call them blended families now, they called them broken families in the 60s. I was constantly reminded I was from a broken family. Dysfunctional would have had a capital D, and there was no fun in it. I was abused every day of my life, physically, emotionally, mentally. I was told I was unloved, I was unwanted, and I was unworthy. And not only was I told these things, I was shown these things. My father had found the greatest enabler in the world, and he allowed her to do whatever she chose to do, because that way he got to do what he chose to do. Today I understand that completely. Then I moved to Florida to my other family that sucked. Because see, in my childhood I had 4 parents, and they all sucked. And I moved to Florida as a very naive 13-year-old virgin. And I hadn't been there too long and I was raped. And I can say that today without breaking down. That's a whole lot of step work and some outside help to be able to stand up here and say that. Because I had that victim's guilt, that there must have been something I did. There must have been something that I could have said to prevent it. There must have been something ... And the reality of it is, they did what they did. And they can hold that. I don't have to hold it any longer. And I can stand up here without any shame or guilt or anything else and say, I can stand up here and not be crying about it and not feel like I shouldn't be talking about it. Because so many of us have had that experience. And at this point, between all the abuse that I had been through in my life, I didn't know what to do. I just know I didn't want to breathe anymore. I didn't want to exist anymore. And I didn't know how to make it stop. But my sister got me high, and I had found a way to make it stop. And I had found what I had been looking for. I thought I had found it in drugs, and on that day I did. On that day, all that, the words that had been told to me, all the abuse, all of that went away. And I felt light, and I could laugh. And I just wanted to keep feeling that way. And that began what became the hell that brought me to Narcotics Anonymous. I used for many years, and I kept wanting to use more drugs and more drugs and more drugs, different drugs, more often, more drugs, different ways, more often, more drugs, different ways, more often, more drugs, different ways, more often. Because, see, nobody told me about the progression the first time I got high. Nobody told me that I was about to awaken something within me that I had no control over. And I got married the first time at 16. That was a good decision. But my first ex-husband, we might get to the others. He asked me not to use. And so I didn't. For 4 years I didn't use. And I'm grateful I didn't use during that time because I had my children. And being pregnant and carrying my child wouldn't have been a reason not to use. So I had my children, and then I got bored, man. I was living what people thought was the American dream. I had a husband, 2 kids, a German Shepherd, and a Woody station wagon. Only thing was missing was that picket fence. But I noticed across the way, they were having fun. They were the ones playing the music late at night, having a good time. I was like, ooh, let me go on over there. And y'all got to know this was early 80s, and lesbians were still in the closet. And I fell in love with one of them. Yeah, and I picked back up, and we were together about 6.5 years. And, again, I thought I had found what I'd been looking for. I thought I'd found it in her. Well, that didn't work out. It was a very abusive relationship. I mean, we fought hard. We fought hard. And because it was 2 females fighting, I just thought it was all okay. No man better put his hands on me, but, But I always had the next relationship lined up, right? I literally moved from this house, into this house, into this house, and into this house. So I left her and I moved in with my next ex-husband. Well, not yet. We had to go through the marriage. And, he had this family that I wanted. He had this family unit that they got together and had Sunday dinner together. And he had a mother and a father that were still married. And he had these siblings that they were siblings, so they had their disagreements, but at the end of the day, they all came back together. And I wanted that. And the only way I was going to get that was to marry that black sheep of the family. And he and I hit it hard. We were the best using buddies in the world. Until I found myself sitting in an efficiency one night with a friend of mine. It had one window and one door. And we had heavy blankets over the window, and we had the dresser pushed up against the door, and we knew people were still looking at us. And I was sitting at this little table, and she was laying over on the bed, and I said, when I finish this, I'm going to go get some help. You see, I had that moment of clarity because I was sitting there thinking about how to live to use and use to live. And I knew what I was going to do with my children. They were going to go back to their father. I was still going to be able to work. I was a server, and this was cash days of service. And I was like, hey, I had money every day. And it made sense that I was going to keep that job. I was going to sell my car and ride the bus. I was literally going through my mind how to live to use and use to live. And in that next moment, I said, I need some help. Now, I had taken people to treatment and picked people up from treatment, and on the way home, we got high. So my concept of what it really was so distorted, and I'm grateful because I would not have went if y'all told me about a program of complete abstinence. That wasn't my idea. That was not why I was going to get help. I was going to get help so y'all could teach me how not to use this drug. I didn't have a problem with this one and this one and this one. I wanted y'all to help me not use this drug. And I got into that detox facility. Well, let me back up. I walked, because this was in the days before cell phones, and I walked up the road, and I stopped to use the payphone to tell my boyfriend, soon-to-be husband, soon-to-be ex-husband, that he needed to call the kids' dads and tell them to come get them. And he said, whatever, and hung up on me. This is about 4 o'clock in the morning. And at the same time, one of Charlotte's finest pulled up, and I asked this female officer, I said, hey, will you take me to detox? Now, detox is about another half mile up the road. And she said, yeah, get in. She didn't ask me any questions. She didn't search me. I don't know what I look like, but I look like that. And instead of going straight up the road, she made a left. And I said, oh my God, we're going to jail. And in that moment, I said, okay, well, at least I'll be out of the madness. In that moment, my willingness was to go to jail to get out of it, you know? But they built a new detox facility, and that's where she took me. And while I was sitting in that assessment, I told them how I didn't have a problem with this, and this. And I just wanted y'all to help me not use this. I would love to read that assessment. Right? It had to be good. But I'm also sitting in this detox facility, and because of the drug that I used that caused me to hit my bottom, I'm staring at the carpet. I couldn't stare at anything else because I had little white specks all in that carpet. What sick individual puts carpet with white specks in a detox facility? But I stayed in that detox facility. They told me it was a 4-day program. I could stay there and detox. And I said, okay, you know, because I really didn't have a problem like the other people there. I just had a problem with one drug. And so I stayed there, and then they had this 2-week extended program. And by day 4, I was like, I need some of that. So they agreed to let me stay there for the 2-week extended program, and then I decided I wanted to go to treatment, because now I'm all in, right? Somebody came in through H&I and gave me some hope. And what they shared, I wanted. And so my whole mentality, if I don't have a problem with this drug and that drug changed. And now I'm willing to do a program of complete abstinence. And y'all need to allow me to do that. Y'all can't put me back out there. And so they told me that I could stay for those 2 weeks, but a bed wouldn't be available in treatment within those 2 weeks. I said, well, we'll just see. So there was a lady in that detox facility with me, and her bed came open. Black Mountain, North Carolina. Some of y'all might have heard of it. And she said, I can't do it right now. She still had to work out some logistics with her children and all this other stuff. And they said, well, it's your bed. You can do what you want to it. And she said, give it to Cindy. My willingness had changed that quickly that people could see it. It only takes a little bit of hope to light the spark in somebody else. Keep spreading that hope. So I went to treatment, and I was like the model client. Like, I didn't break any rules. I took notes on the stupid movies. I did all the optional meetings. I did all that stuff. And my last day in treatment, and I tell people this is the first day of my relapse. That last day in treatment, I said, this is not who I am. I don't follow rules. I make my own rules. And I went to the bathroom and smoked a cigarette. That's the moment my relapse began. That's the moment I took my will and life back. And I got out, and they told me to go to a meeting the first day, so I went to 2. And the first one, I told them all about the 6th tradition, and the second one, I told them all about the 2nd step. Because I knew some stuff. I just left treatment, and I knew some stuff. And they just lovingly told me to keep coming back, and they meant that, keep coming back. It wasn't sarcastic. They really wanted me to keep coming back. And if I ask you to keep coming back, more likely I'll just ask you to stay because you're already here. Just don't go anywhere. But then I got a home group, and what I did was I signed my name to a piece of paper. I said, I got a home group. End of story. I don't need to do anything else. I got a home group. And I heard this lady in the meeting one night share that she was easily intimidated. I said, well, there's my sponsor. So I asked her to be my sponsor, and she said, well, I don't have a sponsor. I said, I don't care. We're good. I'm thinking, you're easily intimidated. I got this. So she agreed to be my sponsor, and, you know, we went out to dinner, we went shopping, we had fun together, but didn't work any steps. And then, like, man, my dope man was different. He was a friend. He'd been a childhood friend of my second ex-husband. And so we still hung out at his house. He had a cool pool table in the back. And we still hung out there. And they wouldn't use around us. They'd go in the back room. Until one night, we were pulling out of the driveway. And the desire to use hit me. And the opportunity was within arm reach. And I made the decision, and I said, back the truck up. And my husband at the time was more than willing to do so. And we went in, and we started 7 months of hell. Because my world had shrank. And I didn't want the people in the rooms to know I was using. I didn't want my family to know I was using. I didn't want the people at the work to know I was using. So there was only a handful of people who knew I was using. And it was miserable. But once again, once I did the first one, I didn't have the power to stop. Yeah. I shot pool by myself for 12 hours one night and never won a game. And, you know, I decided to leave my husband because I wanted to get clean. I didn't fall out of love with him. The relationship didn't get bad, but my addiction had got bad. And I knew the only way that I was going to be able to do anything different was I had to start doing stuff different. And my first decision was to leave him because I was going to kill him. Because we were very physical. And he was a little dude. And I was going to take him out and bounce him down the steps into the back of his pickup truck. And I told him that. I said, so I need to go because I'm not going to prison over you. Moved in with my brother, and we started every day with a joint and a cup of coffee because that's just what people do. And I knew I wanted to get clean. I didn't want to use like I'd been using. And I remember sitting in a little bar on Central Avenue in Charlotte called Happy Days, a little podunk bar. It's not there anymore. Charlotte then got too bougie for all that. Drinking top shelf so I could feel better then. And then crying all the way home. And telling myself, here you are again. And you're going to let each drug kick your ass, or are you going to go back and do what you know works? Well, I got up the next morning and I said, what was it that they talked about? How is it that we stay clean? It was like, oh yeah, that just for today thing. Right? Just for today. That's what started my journey. Just for today. Okay? Don't use just for today. I still don't use just for today. And so I made that decision and I didn't get high that day. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, okay, just for today I'm not going to get high. What else was it? And I thought, well, yeah, let's ask God to help me stay clean today. So I made the decision not to use and I asked God to help me. And I got another day clean. And the next morning I woke up and I made a decision not to use and I asked my God to help me. And I said, what else was it? And they said, oh yeah, the meetings. I was like, I'll think about it. Because I'm still running on, I can do this. And the next day I woke up and I made a decision not to use and I asked my God to help me. And I made the decision to go to a meeting. I walked into Welcome Home, 8 o'clock on a Monday night in Charlotte. Picked up a white chip and made it my home group. Because I was ready to do something different. I didn't just sign my name to a piece of paper. I started picking up chairs. I got involved. I became secretary of that home group. 30 Days Clean became the GSR at 9 months clean. And I was actually alternate GSR. And the GSR said, I'll go with you and show you how it's done. He was there for about 15 minutes. And I became the GSR. I didn't know the ABCs of NA. I didn't know that the GSR went to the ASO to have the ASC once a month. I didn't know this stuff. Y'all didn't teach me the ABCs of NA. I had to just get thrown into service to learn what that stuff meant. I made a lot of mistakes. I broke a lot of traditions, and that's how I learned what our traditions really mean. violate one. Somebody will correct you. If I'm around, it'll be me. But I got involved with service, and I got involved with that home group. And I got a sponsor who was serious about working steps. I didn't go to the dope man's house, and I didn't hang around people that were using. I got those phone numbers and actually used them. And no matter what, I didn't pick up. I didn't pick up. And a lot of things have happened. Like I was at that home group for 11 and a half years. And I was at that place that I always thought I wanted to be. Like I wanted to be the top notch, been here the longest, know everything. And I kind of got there and I didn't like it. You know, I'm like, no, like, I kind of want to be humble even though I'm not. Like, can I get a little bit of that? And so, you know, I changed home groups. And part of it was because I went back to school, because that's another gift that this program has given me. Right? The ability to actually sit down, open a book, and concentrate. But let me tell you, before I could open the book, I had to get through those messages that told me I was unloved, unwanted, unworthy, I was dumb, and I was never going to be able to do anything in life. Before I ever opened the book, I had to shut all that down. I actually graduated with honors. Because you know what? Adults are smart people. We just use our brain for some of the crazy stuff. But when we apply ourselves, man, miracles happen. And then, like, I got my degree in interior design because back in high school, that's what I wanted to do. You see, they talk about lost dreams are awakened and new possibilities arise. That lost dream was awakened and a new possibility arose. And then I was like, well, you know what? Because, you know, I'm an addict. Some is good, more is better. So being an interior designer just wasn't enough. Let me be a licensed general contractor. Let me jump into the boys' world of this. Now, they told me that 70% of people who take this test fail it the first time. So I prepared myself to fail it. Because I don't think I'm highly superior than anybody else anymore. So I went in there and I took the test and I prayed hard for 4 hours. And I hit the button and it said completed. I'm like, what does that mean? Did I pass it? Did I fail it? What's it mean? So I go out there, and again, this is a boy's world, and I understand that. And I get out there, and I'm giving the man at the desk all the stuff back. And he pops it in there, and he said, congratulations, I passed it the first time. When we apply ourselves, these things happen. Now, I'm standing at the desk, I said, thank you. I went out to my car, and I was like, yes! Right? I'm a female. I couldn't show all that kind of excitement in there in front of all them men. Like, oh, yes, how many of y'all passed it? But I didn't do that. But I wanted to. But, you know, I got involved. I moved from the Charlotte area up to the Central Piedmont area. And I fought it hard, guys. I mean, and it was just the next county up. But they didn't do it right. They didn't do it like Charlotte did it. And I fought hard, and I still kept running back to Charlotte meetings. About 3 years after being in the next county up, I decided to become part of that area. And I was really glad I did. Really glad I did. I met a lot of really cool people in that area. And did some service work and got involved and got a home group. You know, the things that you tell us to do. And then this thing called COVID hit. And I'm a people person. I like to touch people. I don't have a bubble. Right? That's why I love that we hug here. I need those hugs. And man, when COVID hit, I missed them so bad. I missed standing in a meeting, hearing the surrender prayer in unison. I missed people nodding in meetings when people were sharing. And man, I realized I got to do something. And there were a couple meetings that were happening in parking lots. And I found them. And I went to those meetings. And I got the hugs from those people that weren't completely freaked out by COVID. Because it was a scary thing, man. You know, it was scary. And then, like, the housing market exploded. And I always said I was never going to move. I was never going to sell my house. but I think it's just a matter of negotiations. Because I sold my house for 5 times what I bought it for, and I said, okay, we can do this. And I was driving to find out where I wanted to move. I wanted to go to another state, live somewhere else, because I've never lived in the state that I was born in and raised, anything else. I've always been around. So I drove up through West Virginia. And the first time I drove through this state, I knew I was home. It was just the serenity that I got, the peace of mind that I got, the natural beauty of this state, and I felt at peace. And I pray I never lose that. So I bought a house up here in St. Albans, and I started going to meetings, and they really wasn't doing it right. There were too many of those alcoholics talking about being sober in the meetings. And I quickly corrected them. This is Narcotics Anonymous. We are addicts who help each other stay clean, and we're in recovery. And so people didn't like my approach because I'm kind of blunt. And I said, fine, you don't want my experience? I went to doing Zoom meetings. And then I went to a convention. And I remember how I missed the hugs. And I missed the serenity prayer in unison. And I remember the heads nodding. And I said, I got to get back to a meeting. A real live in-person meeting. I didn't like Zoom meetings when COVID was going around. That was the only choice we had. Why do we think I'm going to go do it now? And there was this lady. She actually Brooke that introduced me. She kept saying, you need to come to my home group. You need to come to my home group. You need to come to my home group. We're a literature study. Da-da-da, da-da-da. I mean, just like... So I said, okay. So I went. And I went, and I went, and I kept going. And then I joined that home group. And I've been there ever since. You know, and now we'll see what happens next. I'm secretary and treasurer of the home group. I've stated my willingness to be chair of the area. Because that's what this addict does, you know. Dive all in, get all in, be all in. Takes me a minute to start, but once I start, let's go. And we'll see what happens with that. But in this process, man, I've got 8 grandchildren who have never seen me high. Some days that's what keeps me clean. I've still got an ego. Some days that keeps me clean. I remember at a meeting, it was like the night before I went to that treatment facility, and I heard somebody stand up and say they had 7 years clean. That blew my mind. To think that that was possible absolutely blew my mind. And for me to get 30 years clean blows my mind. And I know that it's been a hard-won battle some days. And some days it's been joyous beyond my comprehension. And all the sucky days that I've had in recovery, they might count up to be 6 months. I've had some really amazing days in this process. You know, if you're new, please stay. If this is your first convention, we have fun in recovery. It ain't just about a bunch of sad-faced addicts sitting around the table talking about how bad their day was. Sometimes a meeting can be that, right? But I hope you find the hope. I hope something sparks that in you that says, hey, I want what they've got. And our literature talks about if you want what we will have and are willing to make the effort to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. Right? And I would strongly suggest you take these steps with a sponsor, and if you don't have one, get one. And a sponsor is someone that's willing to take you through the steps and traditions of Narcotics Anonymous. They got something you want here, even if it's the knowledge of the steps and traditions. Got a little clean time. Right? And then get a home group, man. It's where you have a voice in Narcotics Anonymous. We get to vote here. We get to say what happens. See, our service structure is that the home group is at the top. We are an upside-down triangle when it comes to service. The home groups get to say what happens here. And the members of that home group get to vote on stuff. Get active in a home group. Get those phone numbers. You know, and a lot of times people will pass that little schedule around in a meeting and get phone numbers on there. I never sign one. Couple reasons. I've signed a few and nobody's ever called. And they told me to get and use phone numbers. So if I wanted your phone number, I had to go up to you and ask you for it. And if I go up and ask you for it, I am more likely to use it because I had to put a little effort into that. You know, I've got a sponsor. I got her at 9 years clean. She was convention chair, I was convention treasurer. And we showed up early, and before every convention committee meeting, and we talked. And she talked about how she wanted what I had, and I talked about I wanted what she had. See, she had this calmness about her. And I was blunt. And every time we'd have a function, we'd show up early, and I'd say, where's all these people that say they want to be a part of the convention committee? Where they at? They should be here helping fry the chicken and set up the tables and get this thing ready. Where they at? And she'd look at me and very calmly say, I can't judge the level of another's commitment. I can only show up for mine. And at the end of the event, we'd be in there sweeping the floors, putting up the chairs, mopping the floors, cleaning up the kitchen. I'd say, where's those addicts that say they want to be a part of this convention committee? Where they at? They came here, they listened to the speaker, they did the dance, and now they're gone. Where they at? And she'd say, I cannot judge the level of another's commitment. I can just show up for my own. And I heard this over and over and over. It made me sick. I'm like, can you one time, let's talk about these addicts. Just one time. She wouldn't do it. And so she became my sponsor because she had something I wanted. I wanted to have that in my life. And then a couple times, she pissed me off, which really means she hurts my feelings. I told her I don't want to be my sponsor anymore. I ain't got no sponsor. And I got one of them because she had initials behind her name, and I thought I needed some kind of help like that, and I could get it free as a sponsor. Yeah, manipulation 101. It didn't work out. I still love that lady. She's still a part of my life. It just didn't work out. So I went back to my sponsor. I said, will you please be my sponsor again? And she said yes. That's awesome. But then again, she pissed me off, really hurt my feelings. And I said, you're not going to be my sponsor anymore. And I went and got another sponsor. And I love this lady. She's still part of my life, but she just wasn't my sponsor. And I was talking to her at a convention, and I said, I know who my sponsor is. She said, go make it right. I was like, So I had to go to this lady. I didn't have to. I got to. I went to this lady, and I made an amends. And making amends is not saying I'm sorry. Making amends is not about an apology. It can be a part of it, but it's not the point. I went to her and I said, I was wrong. And I need you to be my sponsor. And I don't know what I need to do to make it right, but I will do everything within my power to make it right. And she said, you don't want me to be your sponsor? I said, yes, I do. There's not another person on this earth right now that can sponsor me, and I need you to be my sponsor. So she's my sponsor. But I had to make the amends to her. And I made a promise to myself, not to her, to myself, that I won't do that to her again. We've been together over 20 years, except for those couple times when she pissed me off, hurt my feelings. And she knows everything about me. And she's there for me. I've made a lot of friends in this process. And humans will disappoint. They will betray, and they'll hurt your feelings. That's just part of life, right? But I slammed the door and I said, I never again will get that close to anyone. I never again will take on any new sponsees. And I meant it. Every part of my being meant that when I said it. I'm not going to risk being hurt like that again. Because, see, I got tired of being told, you were just what I needed when I needed you. I'm like, well, what am I now? You don't need me anymore. Move on. But it hurts, man. It hurts. And I got to feel what my sponsor felt when I tossed her away. So that's why I said I would never do that to her again. Because I don't want to give her those feelings again. But then this little lady comes into my life. And she says, will you be my sponsor? And I couldn't say no. And this young lady has saved my life. And she's always sharing how wonderful her sponsor is and how I came into her life just at the right time. And I'm like, girl, you don't even have a clue. You don't have a clue how much I needed you in my life. You know? So if you're scared to ask someone to be your sponsor, just know you're going to impact their life in a way you can't even imagine. Right? When we get to see people grow in this process and bloom and become the people that they are meant to be, and they get to stay clean in this process, and they start doing service work, and they start working steps, and they bare their soul to you. That's some powerful stuff, man. That's enough to keep me here for today. That's enough to keep me wanting to keep giving it back. And to risk being hurt again. Because then I got another one. And these ladies, you know, hanging out with newcomers is enlightening. It genuinely is. You know, it keeps me on my toes. We crack up. We laugh so hard about, you know, those situations when you just had to be there? We laugh so hard. And these two young ladies have just changed my life. And I'm so grateful for them, you know. I'm grateful that I have a God that doesn't take orders from me, that doesn't give me what I want when I want it, but He gives me what I need when I need it. You know, Narcotics Anonymous is a spiritual, not religious program. And I can tell you that my God is the same when I got here, but my understanding has changed. And now I understand that I am in the care of. I still need to do my part. I still need to show up. I still need to not use no matter what. And life can suck sometimes. You know, I got married in this process. We started dating when I had 2 years clean. I got married at 6 years clean. We separated when I had 16 years clean. But I learned a lot about me in that process. A lot. Like I learned that it's okay to have my voice. And it's okay to be who I am. And I also learned that when that relationship ended, it didn't have to be ugly. Like, we didn't bash each other. We didn't cuss each other out and throw things at each other. What? Who does that? That's the program of Narcotics Anonymous work, because he's in recovery too. We both stayed clean through it. It didn't get ugly. And we didn't get up in meetings and advertise that we were now single. Because you hear people do that sometimes. Well, me and my hood, we just split up. Okay. I see. And I got a sick mind, y'all. I still got a sick mind. So I'm like, in that meeting, that welcome meeting earlier, I'm seeing people come across here and they're telling about their clean time. And I said, predators, pay attention. There goes your next victim. I promise you that's what was running through my head. Right? We stay clean and we get better, but we don't get cured. Right? I still qualify. That's why I keep coming. That's why I stay here. Right? This little addict brain of mine, woo! I told you about the donut. One bite, I want more. I think God's about done. But I want to share with you a couple things that I thought of early. And, you know, I try not to rehearse these things because I forget them all anyway. And I like my God to take over. But what I thought about was a serenity prayer. And that first line of the serenity prayer talks about God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. And I'm real grateful that it doesn't say, God grant me the serenity to understand the things I cannot change. It doesn't say, God grant me the serenity to like the things I cannot change. Right? It says to accept. I don't have to understand or like. But the more I want serenity and the quicker I want serenity, that's when I'll accept it. And then the courage to change the things I can. That line is so often forgotten. And sometimes that's the hard one. right? The courage to stand up and say something. It's hard sometimes because you might not like me if I do that. I might not get what I want if I do that. I might lose something I have if I do that. But I need the courage to change the things I can. And the biggest thing I can change is me. And I need help with that. And then the wisdom to know the difference from me come from messing them two up. Because I was trying to accept what I can change and change what I didn't like. And then it just left me, so I don't think I'm supposed to say it. But I want to tell y'all our message. Because if you've never been to a world convention, do yourself a favor and go to D.C. Because it's as close as it's ever going to be. And our message has been around the world, translated in many different languages. Addicts all over the world, and we have not messed it up. That's a miracle. Because this one addict can mess up some stuff. You throw a worldwide fellowship on, we could mess up a whole lot of stuff. But a world convention showed me that this Narcotics Anonymous is so much bigger than my home group, so much bigger than my city, so much bigger than my state, so much bigger than my country. This is a worldwide fellowship. And when you're standing or sitting in that meeting and you hear readings read in different languages, but you know what they're saying, it's powerful, man. It is powerful. There are addicts all over the world who have received the message of Narcotics Anonymous. And the fact that I get to stand here and carry that message tonight, that blows my mind. Right? And that was that weight I felt this week. But our message is an addict. That's me. Any addict, that's you. Can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use. And the reason I messed that up is because I lost the desire to use long before I got clean. Right? I was using against my will. So I lost the desire before I ever stopped using. But our message is that any addict, can stop using drugs. And a lot of times drugs is left out of that. But that's our message. Lose the desire to use. I had to stay clean long enough to learn how to stay clean. I had to learn that I didn't have to use even when I wanted to. And find a new way to live. See, our message is hope. And the promise is freedom. That's the only one you get here. Right? But this freedom and this hope is priceless. Do yourself a favor and get some of it. If you haven't hugged someone you don't know, do that now. You know, when we circle up, man, get beside somebody you don't know. It's powerful what happens here. Lives are changed, miracles happen, and we do it together. And I'm just another addict who somebody trusted with the responsibility to carry the message. I love you guys. Thanks.